how's it going? It's the Fuzz. So, I've got a few things on my mind today, and I decided to talk about them in this little video. So, 3 things. I'm going to start with the first one, Divine Offering. It's not the first time I've done a Divine Offering video, which is why I'm always hesitant to do another one. But, I started a thread in the forums about it, suggesting a very simple fix. And of course, it started growing. People are posting more and more stuff, and it's the same thing as with all the other threads. So I kind of want to put this whole thing to rest. And even though I don't realistically expect it to stop being an issue, I mean, Divine Offering is basically the most debated issue in the game, I think. I can't think of anything else, like relating to cards themselves and the game mechanics. So it's not a surprise that people will jump at it every chance they get. So my solution was simply that if you don't have a shrine in your top 5, the Divine Offering button doesn't light up. You can still press it just to send the 5 to the bottom. However, that's actually not what I wanted to talk about regarding Divine Offering. Drygord posted a very interesting post in the forums which really hits home the truth about Divine Offering and why it seems like we just can't get into agreement. So I'm going to read part of it and then I'll explain what I mean. So, here's what he writes. He writes, imagine you live in a country with a bad economy where most of the population is unemployed, live in shacks, and blah, blah, blah. Life is bad for everyone. For everyone equally. And then, President Trump comes in and makes the country great again. Now, everyone has good cars, TVs, big houses, gets to eat good food. Life is good for everyone, right? Now, here's the catch. 5% of the population at random will not receive their big welfare checks, which means they can't pay their mortgage, they can't pay their cars, and they basically go out on the street, right? And that's pretty bad. And this creates a huge gap between them and the rest of the population. And now, this is where he closes it with, the point is having DOO land 95% of the time is arguably worse than not having it at all. I don't actually agree. But the point here remains. It adds a great deal of consistency to the point where missing practically loses the match. Whereas a totally inconsistent system like Magic has everyone playing the same field. Now, of course, that doesn't excuse Magic's terrible resource system. But you understand the idea. If everyone is playing with the same crappy system, it feels a lot more fair than if most people have a really good system, but occasionally you get screwed. And now his last analogy here is, the answer should be to offer some kind of temporary housing and food. So yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that we have to face the facts. If we're not going to make Divine Offering and the resource system 100% perfect, that is to say, nothing bad ever happens, no mana shrines, no mana flood, no mana screw, no nothing. If we don't decide to do that, then we're going to have to accept the fact that there will be some percentage of games that are ended based on bad luck, right? You miss your Divine Offering at the bad time, you lose the card, you can't play your mana, and you basically get screwed. Because the more consistent this system gets, the more devastating it is when it misses. And we've seen that. When Divine Offering started looking at top 5 cards, we all thought it was like a gift from the heavens, right? It was a great thing. But what happened is that when you did miss, it felt so much worse. And Ivko himself even confirmed this. And it makes sense, right? It happens less often, so it has a bigger impact on your psychology. You remember it more. So we're going to have to deal with that if the system is not perfect. So if that's the case, I think the best we can do is to try to make that number of games that you lose as small as we possibly can. And I would say that the popularly accepted opinion of this would be to make the player who misses Divine Offering simply not lose the card. You know, if you miss, you just get your card back. Yes, it only solves half the problem. But if you have no risk of using Divine Offering, you can use Divine Offering every turn. I mean, we almost already do. You can use it every turn, you know, even when you have mana for next turn. Because this way, the only way you actually get screwed on mana is if you miss, you had one shrine, you play your shrine, and then you miss again. You have to miss like twice in a row at least. Now that can happen. It can happen. It's very rare, but it can happen. That said, the number of games where you lose because you missed twice is much less compared to the games you lose because you just missed once. So that would go a long way towards helping us. Now, it doesn't answer mana flood, but I don't think we need to run more than like 20 shrines and Divine Offer every turn to like never have to worry about this. Yeah, maybe 1 out of 100, 1 out of 200 games, you'll get screwed, right? Yeah, maybe. But that's still better than 1 out of 10 games or whatever it is. The less games we can make it, the better. And we want to implement a solution that's as simple as possible, as quick as possible, that does the least to the balance as possible, and requires the least work for the developers possible. Right? Let's be honest. The developers are not going to overhaul the resource system. There's no way that happens. The only thing they might do is a slight tweak like that, where let's say in this case you don't lose the card. It's a pretty simple tweak, very small, and it would go a long way towards reducing those games where you do get screwed. Yes, those games will still be there. There'll still be a lot of baby rage moments when it happens, but it's the best we can do, right? If we can't have a perfect system, the best we can do is have as few of those bad games as possible. I have spoken my piece. I'm sure the debates will keep going until something is done. And amusingly, possibly even after, even if this was implemented, there might still be people complaining about it. But I mean, at this point, we've done about it all we can without making the system perfect. So I think I would just accept the system as it is with that little tweak, even if I occasionally lost the game. Because it can happen. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say about Divine Offering. Let's move on to some crispier things, like a chicken. Man, this little guy. What a fun card, right? So, it's been causing some waves in the game recently, mostly because how ridiculously overpowered it can be. So, what's the problem with chicken? Well, the problem is that if you look at the 5 abilities, ranged, flying, deadly, unstoppable, and swift, they are not equally good. In fact, one of the 5, Swift, is way better than all the others. Now, ranged is the second best, and it's not far behind, and it's also good. The other 3, however, kind of worthless, right? I mean, you don't need flying if you have ranged, because, well, you can just kill whatever creature attacks you anyways, most of the time. With deadly, it's the same thing as with ranged. Chickens tend to have high attacks, so they don't need deadly. I mean, it's nice to have deadly and ranged, but it's not really necessary. And unstoppable, well, chickens mostly go face anyways. Or they free kill creatures, so you don't need unstoppable either. All you need is swift, and you can throw in ranged on top for fun. So that's why you're seeing these red, green, blue chicken decks, or sometimes just red and blue, because if you're playing like a red-blue control deck, you're eventually going to get to 4 aspects, and then you've got a 4/1 Swift for 1 mana. That's a pretty good card, right? I think that's pretty good. So yeah, adding Swift to a creature like this, can lead to some problems. But there's more to it than that. It's not just that it's a very powerful burst card later, it's that it can be pretty oppressive early. If you play chicken on turn 1, then your opponent has to realize that you might play New Horizons, get a Nature Shrine, and make your chicken ranged, and allow it to kill almost any 2-drop your opponent plays. Like, including another chicken. If your opponent opens with a chicken and you want to play chicken, well, what if they play a Nature Shrine? They just kill your guy for free. So I think those 2 things combined are making this card a little bit too much. I don't have a clear idea on how to change it. There's a lot of different things you could do. If you make it cost 2 mana, you could make it have 2 health. Or you could make the different abilities do more than just add a keyword. Like, you could have the shifting Aurite, like, become a different creature depending on what aspect you have. I think that'd be pretty neat. If you have nature, it becomes like a 3/2 ranged or something. I don't know. If it's if you have white, yellow, whatever, it becomes something else. You get the idea, right? The point is, we can't really have a 1-mana creature with the potential to range Swift with like 5 attack. We just can't have that. It's a little bit too much. And yes, part of the problem is New Horizons. And if New Horizons didn't exist, it wouldn't be as bad, but it would still be played, I think, because you can still get to 4 aspects without help of Horizons. You just wouldn't have, like, unstoppable deadly flying chickens anymore. You just have, like, mostly swift chickens. But that's still dangerous. So that's my chicken rant, if you will. I do think this card is definitely a little bit, I don't know, demoralizing to play against. When, you know, 2 of these come down and kill your board, and then you still have to kill them. Pain in the ass. And the last card is New Horizons. It's a card I've been thinking about for some time, and I believe it's actually a bit of a problem. I think it's too good at what it does. The fact that it essentially lets you play a second shrine, right? It's as if you played 2 shrines that turn, but it's much better than just simple ramp. It's ramp without card loss. What do I mean? Imagine player A has a New Horizons and a basic shrine. Player B has a basic shrine and Power Surge. The first player can play New Horizons to get an aspect and play the shrine for mana, which will then redraw into a new card. So he essentially only lost the 1 card, Horizons, to get an aspect. The person with Power Surge, however, will have to play a shrine for aspect and not draw a card, and play Power Surge to gain mana and also not draw a card. So they'll have essentially lost 2 cards, you know, the shrine and Power Surge, whereas the first player with Horizons got to draw a card. So Horizons is therefore so much better than Power Surge, because getting an aspect doesn't get you a card anyways, but with Power Surge, the price is that you don't get to redraw, at least not until later. Horizons does more than that, though. It also lets you cycle out bad skill shrines. You know, if you already activated a skill shrine, well, you can just get extra copies out of your deck. You can also just easily splash like 1 or 2 green shrines or red shrines or whatever you want, and just easily add them to your lineup. And that's one of the reasons why Chicken is so ridiculous, because you can just throw like extra nature just to give it ranged. You know, you don't care because you aren't gonna play any nature cards. You just want that ability, and you can do it in New Horizons. So it's a little bit too efficient. Lastly, because in this game, with the exception of like Bezarok, the most expensive cards are turn 7 plays. Like Karthus, Antriel, and all that are turn 7 plays. So if you can ramp, you can get to those way too fast. Ridiculously quickly. And it allows you to basically skip the mid game almost completely and just start playing with Karthus, Bidding, and whatever when your opponent is still playing like library guards. And that's why all control decks have been like this. They've included New Horizons because it allows them to play powerful cards very quickly. And New Horizons basically has no cost because it's like playing a shrine for aspect. You don't lose a card unlike with Power Surge. So while I like the idea because it lets you play like rainbow decks, I think it's just too good. Like, it's becoming like this crutch for so many decks because you always want to play it on turn 2 because that lets you play a library guards or a mutant or something. And sometimes when you get like 2 of these, you can just start playing big cards way too fast. Like turn 4, turn 5, Cataclysms or Karthuses. It just makes your opponent's game completely miserable because how can he possibly keep up where you're skipping the middle game and going straight to the late game? And the thing is, you can still play a control deck without New Horizons. Yes, it takes longer to get there, but it should take longer to get the 4 aspects because 4 aspects cards are pretty powerful. That's the idea. So I think New Horizons is actually kind of a problem. And I want to know what you think. Actually, no, let me know what you think about all the things I just said. Divine Offering, maybe not too much on that. The Chicken, how would you like to... How would we fix Chicken? What can we do about it? And what do you think about New Horizons? Is it broken? Is it fair? Because, hey, I'm just one guy. I only have one hat. There's only so much I can do, right? So I need your help to help make Spellweaver an awesome game, right? We all need to help one another. Something. I don't know. I'm trying to sound like a leader of a movement or something, but I'm just a dude in a hat in front of a screen. So yeah, that's my rant / discussion on these three things. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think. Stay awesome, and I'll see you next time.